But I'm so proud of myself for getting out of bed. I
It's
really
awesome.
I
It's
really did that.
awesome.
I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it." And I set my alarm for 20 more minutes, and then I'm like, "Okay, get out, do 5 minutes of Tai Chi outside, go to class." Because you really influenced me to a breathing class that's like psychotherapy. I was too curious, even though I was up against a lot of resistance, because it is 7 in the damn morning here.
Yeah, it is 7 in the damn morning. Who wants to do psychotherapy at 7 in the damn morning?
But breathing and psychotherapy totally intrigued me. You made me
It's to-
so curious.
it's the bomb, which is why, well, we might as well go ahead and get started. It is time, which is why I changed my profile picture to show you the lungs.
Oh,
Show you the
Cool.
lung. And to notice how, that main trunk in the middle is your trachea. So the air comes in through the nose and the mouth, and it goes down the back of the throat, and then it goes into the trachea. And then you see it splits, and then it has to go in an arc up to the treetops on the right and the left, and down to the bottom. So I thought I thought the visual might be useful for our lesson today because we'll be referring to these directions. If you, in your imagination, fill out the front of these bushy trees, that's really how it is. We're looking at it like a cross section, but it would be fully leaved in the front as well with all the leaves and the breath. And so let's go ahead and get started. Make sure you're warm enough because there's not a lot of movement, although you might become warm. And I'm going to front load the lesson a little bit, that we're not breathing powerfully or making large movements and heaving the chest and expanding the abdomen as we do in other lessons. So you'll watch over that, and I'll try to remember to remind you. Make sure you're warm enough and lie quietly on the floor and close your eyes, yay. And if you fall asleep, it only means you're tired and need to sleep some more. If it's comfortable, have your legs long and your arms on either side of your body. If you need a little cushion behind your head, make sure you take that so that you're ultra comfortable. And now simply press the back of your head into the floor. Press the back of your head into the floor and pay attention to whether or not you just stopped your breathing. And then stop pressing the head and listen again to your breathing, that it's comfortable and without any powerful, large movements in yourself. And just listen to the breath for a moment and maybe recall this picture of the lungs. And pay attention to whether or not you can sense that the lungs open downwards towards your legs when you inhale, and that they also, once they go into the trachea, they go upwards towards the treetops, towards your shoulders. So pay attention that you feel an expansion and a downward descent of the lungs on the right and on the left. And also an expansion in your sternum in the direction of your ears. It's an odd thing to think of. The direction of the ears, the breath goes in the direction of the ears and to the shoulders. And now, without changing anything, see if you can press the head to the floor again without changing anything in your breath. Press the head and don't change anything. And listen so that your breathing remains light and slow. Listen and see if it's possible. Now we're going to add something to make a little stop after the inhalation, just a little stop. And then let the air go out smoothly, exhale, and make a small stop after the exhalation. And then stop pressing the head and listen to your breath. So we're going to press the head as we do one inhalation and one exhalation with a little stop at the top and a little stop at the bottom. And listen on the right and listen on the left that it's possible that you can imagine the two currents from the middle of the chest downwards and towards the back of your ribs. And the second current of air goes upwards from the middle of your chest towards your shoulders and your head and your ears. So your lungs truly fill throughout their entire length, and they also fill out to the sides. Did you include that? And listen as you exhale. When you exhale, listen to how your lungs shrink. They shrink from below and they shrink from above. Shrinking from below means the diaphragm is actually lifting them up. From above, they leave your shoulders and they shrink down towards the middle. And listen for the moment that your whole chest becomes more limp. Make sure you're doing everything with small movements, that you haven't defaulted to your large breathing, without power, without intensity, and nothing abrupt. And now, lift your head just the tiniest amount, the tiniest, teensiest, weensiest bit. And while you lift it, think of lengthening your entire spine, since your lungs support that movement and they move away from the middle. They go up and they go down. So a part of you is moving downwards and a part moves upwards while you fill the lungs, and the whole spine should lengthen. If you don't feel it lengthening, just imagine, hold the thought, hold the image, a feeling that maybe somebody is pulling your hair. And we've done this before in past classes, so you could actually take a little bit of hair with one hand on top of your head and find just the right place where you would pull a little tiny bit and encourage that feeling of lengthening as you lift the head. As the lungs fill with air, listen on both sides, on the right and on the left. Going down towards the ribs and up towards the shoulders and towards the clavicles and out to the sides. Lift your head and pull the hair on the top of the head a little tiny bit. Allow your spine to lengthen throughout the inhalation and also during the exhalation. Oh my God. So enable your spine to lengthen while you also breathe out. And continuing listening to the breath, see if you can lift the head in the same way, but without the help of the hand. Try to lift the head in a way that makes it possible to listen to this slow, easy breath with a slight stop after the inhalation and a slight stop after the exhalation. But the stop after the exhalation can be a bit longer. So during the inhalation, it's possible that from the middle, Your lungs fill up in the direction of your head and down in the direction of your legs and your belly. And they fill to the sides and they fill backwards behind towards the floor. And during your exhalation, you can notice your chest is emptying, not powerfully, not fast, just a little bit in all these directions. It empties in the shoulders, in the chest, on the sides behind, in your belly, in the front, and in the sternum. And now continuing to listen to the breath. If you can just press your right shoulder a tiny bit into the floor, just the right shoulder, without lifting the hand or the arm, just the right shoulder blade. Just add a little bit of pressure. And the rest of you stays quiet. The rest of you stays quiet. And now, as you press the shoulder blade, a part of the breathing becomes a little harder to hear. It's a little harder to listen to. So where is that? Which part of the expansion in your self, in your lungs, is hard to hear? Keep breathing in exactly the way we're practicing, with a little stop, the top and the bottom. And listen to see if you can not change the breath while you press the shoulder blade. And now do the opposite. Stop pressing the shoulder blade and lift it a tiny bit. The right shoulder, just a tiny bit. Only the right, only the right. And continue watching over the breath, that it's light and easy and smooth, and a feeling of the lungs filling upwards and downwards and out to the sides, to the front and to the back, and then they shrink all away from all these, the periphery, they shrink back to the center while exhaling the air. Now, without interfering with whatever your natural rhythm of breathing is, see if you can press the right shoulder blade just twice into the floor without interfering with your rhythm of breath. And then lift the shoulder blade twice with extreme slowness and ease. And again, see if breath is forming as we are speaking about it. All these things. Can you notice all these directions of the air? Pressing the right shoulder blade to the floor again. And now the next time you press the right shoulder blade to the floor, lift the left shoulder blade at the same time. Just as slowly, just as easily, and listen to the process of the breath, that it forms in the way that we are forming it. And now press your right shoulder blade once, and your left shoulder blade once, and listen to the same way of breathing and filling yourself, and to the stops. Listen mostly to your breath, to the length. Did you forget about the lengthening of the spine? Listen to the lengthening of the spine while you exhale and while you inhale and while you're pressing one shoulder and lifting the other. Listen to the lengthening of the lung. Listen to how from the middle of yourself you can actually feel your lung going down and up and out to the sides, all at the same time. And now press the right shoulder blade and lift the left one. Press the right and lift the left, and continue listening to the breath. And now press the left shoulder and lift the right shoulder. And then equalize the shoulders and listen to the breath and lift both of your shoulders and leave them away from the floor just a few seconds, continuing to breathe. Don't forget about the lengthening. The shoulder blades are in the air and your spine in the middle will stay on the floor. Lift your shoulder blades, bring your shoulders a little closer to the center in the front. And notice what you can sense in the upward movement of your lungs as they fill when you do this. There's the lengthening on the inhale and the lengthening on the exhale. And the stops. Do you continue lengthening during the stops? How is it for you? Leave the shoulder blades and just rest. Now press your right leg to the floor, your entire leg. The heel, the back of the leg, even, it might not touch for you, but pay attention to, did you just change your rhythm of breathing? And continue pressing. Of course, you can rest as you need to, but press downwards into the floor and listen to the movement of your lungs, your chest going upwards and sideways and down towards the floor and down towards the spine and into the back behind and towards the sternum and your front, from the middle of your bronchi, from all the leaves in your lungs. You can notice how your lungs fill with air. And by listening like this, the lungs are gluing everywhere to the chest, on the right, on the left, behind, below, and above. They glue themselves to your interior. Continue pressing with your right leg, but in a way that doesn't disturb your breath. It's not quicker or stronger or straining. And then stop pressing and observe. And now lift your right leg just a tiny, tiny bit. So tiny, and pay attention which parts of your breathing now feel different than before. And see if you can organize yourself so the difference is not so great. You lower the leg, lower it slowly, and watch that there's not an abrupt passage in the breath. Press your right leg to the floor again. And now lift the left one a tiny bit as you press with the right. And listen to the movement of the air and the lengthening of your spine. Did you shorten? Think of the lengthening of your spine while the air comes into the lungs, downwards and upwards. And now stop pressing the right leg and lower the left leg slowly and just pay attention to your breathing. And continuing listening to the breath and making the two little stops, listening to the lengthening of the spine as you inhale and as you exhale, press just your left leg. Press just your left leg. See if you can do it without changing the breath. Press the left leg and slowly lift the right and hold yourself like this, the left leg pressing, the right leg lifted, and listen to the breath. and lower the leg and rest the left leg. And listen to the breath and recover it. If you lost it, recover it. Where did you lose it? Where did it stop? Where do you feel the resistance? And now can you press the floor with both of your legs together and watch that your breathing is as light and easy and effortless as before, without any large, dramatic movements in your chest or your abdomen. And if you're breathing through your nose, you can clearly feel how air comes in through your nose and down the throat and the palate, and from behind the palate into the trachea and into your bronchi. Middle of your chest, the air, think of those trees, the picture of the trees. From the middle of your chest, the air turns up and down and out to the sides, and it fills your whole chest cavity in all directions. And after that short stop at the top of the breath, everything shrinks. Everything shrinks during the exhalation without force, slowly, gradually, pleasantly, and comfortably, and without changing. Can you slowly lift both legs in the air and keep the breath exactly as it was before? And lower the legs and start again. Watch that the breath can form. It's not about lifting the legs to the ceiling. We lift the legs, as we said earlier, straight and long and barely. Straight and long and barely. Watch at the transition, the moment of lifting. Think of your spine lengthening. Hint, hint. Think of your spine lengthening, your head lengthening, your chest lengthening and filling. And nothing powerful. We're not doing Pilates. We're organizing ourselves so we can do what we want. Leave your legs. Leave it. Leave your legs and rest and recover the breath. Recover this feeling of lengthening on the inhale. Feel that tiny increase in pressure all through yourself when you stop at the top. And then the air leaves you, the lungs shrink towards the middle, and you stop, and that stops a little longer. Do you keep lengthening? You can press the middle of your waist to the floor, where you would wear a belt. On either side of the waist, there are the small ribs on the right and on the left. See if you can press them to the floor, but the most important is the breath. So primarily, and first of all, listen to the breath. And everything should be exactly as before. The lengthening, the emptying, the stops, the lightness of the breath, the lightness of the movement of the pressure. Safety. And now think of those two small floating ribs on the right side of the waist. The back. See if you can press them to the floor, just on the right, towards the floor, towards the floor. Maybe they don't touch the floor, but they go towards the floor. And you pay attention to what part of the breath this interferes with. What part does it interfere with? And see if you can organize yourself so that it doesn't. So despite our hardships, we try to see if we can stay with the breath and stay with the lengthening. Stay with the ease and the safety. And then leave that and press on the left side. And watch for the slightest differences as you do this. So in order to press on the left side, you have to lift the ribs a bit on the right side, lifting the ribs a bit while you press the ribs on the left. A tiny bit, a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. And listen to what you're doing with your chest. You're making a light rolling movement only in the chest. So where do you feel the movement changing? The relationship between the chest and the ribs. Now press the right side, lift the left side, just the ribs, those small ribs. The ribs on the left side, just the ones next to the waist, nothing else. What do you do with your chest? And now press both sides of the waist, the small ribs, at the same time into the floor. See if it's possible that the spine you might even find the spine right in the middle. And listen to the movement of the air while it lengthens your chest and it lengthens your spine. Everything lengthens when the air comes in. And now can you lift from the floor the same part of the chest that you are now pressing into the floor? Only that part of the chest and no other. And you do it without changing the breath or losing the length. And leave it and just lie quietly. Those of you that I can see, your shapes are changing on the floor, just my observation. So now find your breath again, your awareness of your breath, the way you're thinking of your breath, the way you're thinking of the lengthening during the filling in all directions and the emptying from all directions. And now press your left shoulder blade into the floor and lift the right hip from the floor, just the hip. And listen to the movement of the air as we're doing, and watch for the same thing. Lift the right hip and the left shoulder blade, which means the middle of you will stay on the floor. The middle of the chest stays on the floor, and this is not easy to do, I know. Make a tiny movement, otherwise it won't work. Your right hip and your left shoulder blade, and hold them like this and continue breathing with a short stop and a lengthening of the body with very light movements without making heavy and full breaths. Leave it and just rest quietly. And now press your left hip to the floor as you lift your right shoulder blade. Your left hip and your right shoulder blade as you continue listening to the breath. This is all about organizing ourselves, regardless of how we have to move. Organize the breath. And now can you lift the left hip and the right shoulder blade? And leave it again. And once again, maybe if you caught your hair before with your hand, go ahead and catch it again on the top of your head, above your head. take your hair and pull it while air comes into your lungs, and listening to your lungs lengthening downwards in the direction of your legs and filling your entire chest and your ribs all at the same time. It's possible to feel your head follows the upper tension of the hair. Your head follows your hair, which means everything lengthens. Leave it and come onto your stomach. Roll onto your stomach. Take your time. Roll onto your stomach and extend your two arms in front on the floor, palms down, forehead down. And now once again, listen to your movement of breath. Listen to all these same things. We have different feedback. Floor is in the front. The back is free to move. When the air comes in, your lungs are filling downwards towards your legs in the direction of your waist, and upwards in the direction of your neck. Listen to your shoulders on either side of the neck. Listen to see if your lungs fill on the right and the left sides of your neck. And what about behind your shoulder blades and the ribs on either side? Does your chest expand when the ribs come in? Does it expand downwards into the small ribs that we just pressed into the floor from behind at the waist? Make slow movements, light movements of the body. Slow inhalation with a short stop, and a slow exhalation with a short stop. Not overly slow, not completely. It should be very pleasant to do and not difficult and mostly smooth as I observe everyone's backs changing. It's lovely. The length and the duration of your own breath will become more and more organized by simply doing it better, by paying attention to the things we're speaking of. And listen to, oh, is your forehead creeping along the floor while your lungs lengthen and fill? Not that it lifts, it's just that everything's lengthening. And now try to slowly lengthen your right arm along the floor. Lengthen your right arm along the floor until you could maybe lift it a tiny bit from the floor without changing your breath. Everything okay, Carol?
Yeah, I have to check something on this phone.
Okay, all right. We'll take a little rest.
Okay, I'm
Back. So Carol can catch up. Everyone else is breathing and lengthening, and they're listening to you. Everyone's listening to your head lengthening on the floor. And your right arm lengthens on the floor until you feel you might lift it without changing the breath. If you change the breath, don't lift the arm. So nothing changes. Everything continues light and easy and comfortable breathing. Safe inside, literally safe inside yourself. To the extent that it's possible, see if you can lift your hands so that it doesn't change a thing. Now leave it for a moment, and then When you're ready, do it again, but do it simpler. Do it better, which doesn't mean trying harder. Now do the same thing with the left arm. The filling, the lengthening away from the waist and downwards and up towards the ears and the shoulders. Growing longer, lengthening the left arm, listening especially to the breath. And the movement of your arm will prove to you whether you're truly listening. And you put the arm and in the air, close to the floor, but in the air, and continue to listen to the breath as before. And pay attention to which places you notice that there's a disruption in the expansion or in the shrinking because of the effort of lifting the arm. Set the left arm down and find the breath again. Find the lengthening again. Find the lower ribs. Find the expansion and the ease and the pleasure. And now lift both your arms. Slowly, slowly lengthen them and lift them both just a tiny bit in the air. And where is there a difficult with holding the breath? And if you of allowing your lungs to move away from the middle, that the lungs can go downwards as well as upwards, this will become easier. The difficulty will disappear. And now lower the lungs, but let them be very long. Let the arms be very long and lift your head slowly without interfering with your breath. Arms are lying on the floor long, and you lift the head a tiny bit. And then you press the two hands into the floor as they are, and which place prohibited you from doing what you want? What part of your chest stopped you? And leave it, and stay with your forehead on the floor and your arms long. They don't have to touch strongly. It's enough that they lie as they are. And pay attention again to the movement and the feeling of the breath. And where do you feel an avoidance? Where do you feel a disruption in your lungs? Find out. Pay attention behind the ribs, behind the back, on the sides, to the both sides of your neck, on the ribs, on either side, behind your shoulder blades. Lie quietly for a moment. Think of the length of both your legs. Sense the length of both of your legs and press them through their entire length into the floor. Press them into the floor, and the movement is less important than the quality of attention while you're breathing during the action, which means that the attention to the way the movement is made and not to the movement itself. And now slowly lift your right arm and left leg, but continue doing the same thing with the breath. The right arm and the left leg. The breathing is exactly as we've been forming it. But where does it change? Did it change? And what do you need to do to have it be simple again? Can you still notice the movement of the lung above and down, out to the sides? Pause. And now press your left arm and left leg to the floor, the same side, throughout their length. Feel the length. And again, press only while you listen to this breathing process. Don't press and then discover later that a change occurred that you couldn't even pay attention to. We're paying attention to the changes so that we can interfere with the interference. Listen to your breath and now lift your left hand and your right leg. Your left hand and your right leg. And leave it. And now turn your feet under so that you can press the floor with the toes. Yes, we've been working on that. And now with your two hands and your elbows on the floor, hold your hair. Hold your hair with your right and your left hands. Keep your hands and elbows on the floor. Your hands and elbows on the floor. So you'll be somewhere at the top of the head. And now listen to the movements of your breath. And at the same time, pull your head forward. Pull your hair forward. And notice that your head can move forward with the movement of your breath, with the air. And the whole spine lengthens from the pelvis upwards. Yes, beautiful. Beautiful. That's why we turn the toes. The whole spine lengthens from the pelvis upwards. And now with everything long like this, listen to your lungs lengthening on the right, on the left, behind the ribs, out to the sides, behind your neck, between your shoulders, behind your shoulder blades. And during the exhalation, listen to how everything softens and shrinks and leaves, and yet you lengthen. You can even lengthen the head during an exhalation. Try it once again. Try lengthening on the inhale. Everything in all directions. And as you exhale, there's still a lengthening. And everything returns to the floor and you go limp. And now come onto your back. Listen to the breath. Bend your knees. Stand your feet. Listen to the breath. And now interlace your fingers and bring them behind your head. And with the help of your arms and your hands, lift your head and like this, make 10 slow breaths. And with each one, use what you learned. What's the easier side? Do it on the easier side of yourself. The most comfortable. So your head is lifted. If you want to leave the head lifted, you might want to bring your elbows closer together. It'll be so much easier. But you decide. Close your eyes and listen to the right upper side behind Once on the right, once on the left, once in the middle, once behind. The head is lifted the whole time you're breathing. And we're listening to all these places alternately because I can't say them all at the same time. But with each breath, you listen to a different part of your chest. Now bring your focus into your chest until it's possible. It is possible to listen to your entire chest simultaneously in all directions. And continue listening and breathing. Slowly, slowly. Imagine the lungs like two giant sponges absorbing air in all directions. That little stop at the end, the lengthening, the emptying, and the lengthening. That was our lesson.